Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. With Rostermania coming to a conclusion ahead of the start of the Major 2 qualifiers next weekend, big question as to when all of these changes are going to get officially confirmed, especially the Seattle Surge, who arguably missed out on some of the most promising players and challenges, given the fact that Boston and Thieves moves very quickly. They still, though, are looking to make a change. We believe as of today, we have a name as to who that player is going to be, and of course the player that's making way in rather controversial fashion. Very much enjoying your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always, I greatly appreciate it. Thought Crim looked awesome here, by the way. Like, he's definitely taken the weight off ahead of his first race for the Porsche North American Championship Series. Whatever he's racing in is at the start of next month at the Spring in Florida. So that's really cool stuff. Now, first of all, MBoZe, he officially announced his retirement yesterday from professional Call of Duty. I thought this was kind of interesting from multiple angles. Obviously, it's a bit of a joke, right? Like, MBoZe was never actually still competing for the last few years. But I wonder if he's done this because I'm not sure he ever actually officially announced his retirement. He might well have done. I tried to find a tweet on it. I couldn't really find it. So he may have announced this before, and it's just kind of a joke. But, you know, we've seen other players retire over the last 2 weeks. Doug stepped away, plenty of others. So I thought it was kind of funny for MBoZe to hop on the bandwagon and get a legendary career, bro, and all this type of stuff here in the replies, and this kind of classic image. There's a few names that are missing from this. We've got Doug on here now. I know that Trey Zero really should be on here somewhere, but he's not. But, yeah, this is like the retirement home for classic legendary COD players. And in the background here, we've got, you know, MoneyB in the sun. So that's always funny stuff. Let's not forget, by the way, MoneyB was technically a professional up until the Cold War season, when he was a substitute for the Chicago Huntsmen. If you guys don't remember the chaos of that Modern Warfare 19 season when the CDL first came around, but they were mandated to have 5 starters and 2 substitute players. So it was really weird, the teams that season, such as OGLA, when they had Chino and Goonjar as their 2 substitutes, and then like a coach on top of that. So the Chicago Huntsmen, of course, their starting team, Scump, Envoy, Formal, RCTs, and Gunless. Then their substitute was General, but they also had another sub in MoneyB, right? So MoneyB was technically, in the same way that Nick Maniac Kirshen or whatever, was technically a professional COD player for the Florida Mutineers, because he was signed over there as a sub. Wild times, really. But yeah, despite the fact that MoneyB hadn't really played competitive, I think he tried to make a bit of a comeback in World War II, as did many guys. He did play at the, was it the relegation tournament, when King Pappy qualified for the Pro League that eventually became 100 Thieves in Black Ops 3. I'm talking about, of course, we remember the Black Ops 3 season quite fondly here on the channel, when MoneyB subbed in for Goonjar on the Team Caliber roster. They played a map 5 Hunted Search and Destroy. I think MoneyB got an ace in it, but they still lost it. King Pappy qualified for the league. They then kind of became 100 Thieves in that first iteration of 100 Team before Nadeshot then stepped away for a couple of years. And I think that was, you know, pretty much MBoZe's last hurrah as a COD player, but he still was kind of a pro in the CDL. So I'm not sure he ever officially stepped away since then, but now it's the case. What a career, he says. And I think MBoZe had another tweet saying that, you know, now he's going to be pursuing content full time from now on, that type of stuff. So, you know, wishing you the best in retirement, MoneyB. Congrats on a hell of a career. And yeah, some legendary times, of course, with MBoZe. Couple of scrims to mention for you guys last night. Ravens had a few sets going down, one of which against the Seattle Surge. Very interesting, we shall dive into. They also played FaZe Black. They played, well, we have 5 maps here, and FaZe Black are a good team. There's no doubt about it. There's been questions about Ravens. Will they have some sort of honeymoon period? Like, was the Major their honeymoon, and are they going to be able to retain that level? Because you've got to be good online, to be honest. And they were better on LAN, for sure. Like, Felony really turned up on LAN. He wasn't so good in the couple of series they played online. The Search and Destroy was their weakness, and their hardpoint was their strength. But in this scrim series, you know, 250-100, the way of, you know, FaZe Black, like, honestly, Ravens are kind of getting slammed here. They did win the Rio. I'll just share the full screen of this real quick. So this was the Rio, you know, 27 kills, the max in the lobby. Not an absolute bang out, this one. I think 40 is possible on this map, but, you know, I think that any more of that is probably going to be a stretch. Clay went 27 and 19 here, though, for the win. And then the final map was a sub-base 250-146. So, you know, the 5 maps we saw there, 3 to FaZe Black, 2 to Ravens. Maybe not too much in it, but at least worthy of mention there, right? Because, you know, Carolina, there's still questions as to whether that team is, you know, the team that they will have until the end of the season. And they maybe should have got more points at Major 1 than they ended up doing based on the way they played, especially in the respawns. So Vegas Legion will need to confirm shortly. Maybe they will take a long time what their decision is, but we know that Geo is in, Standy is gone. We're still not 100% sure if that's going to be their final change. Rumor has until Monday the teams have, until roster lock effectively happens going into Major 2. So they've got until Monday if they want to trade out Purge for some sort of other option. And the Staddy says, something looks off here, right, with Staddy being currently listed on the Vegas Legion, but that is possibly not going to last in the game for too much longer. Boston, of course, made one of the first moves of this period. Teams such as Boston, teams such as Thieves, they knew that if they wanted to make changes, they had to move pretty quickly. So Boston went in there straight away and got Asim, who was one of the best options. I think certainly for that roster, makes a lot of sense. I also think, though, Asim to Surge could have made a lot of sense as well, but they did not move swiftly enough to get that move done, even if they wanted that move done in the first place. I don't know, but, you know, just worthy of mention. And Nastie and Kremp, two of the other top prospects on paper from the Challenger side, have now gone to Thieves. So the other teams have been not struggling to find good players, but I thought it was at least worthy of mention that some of the top candidates no longer an option. I also thought this is interesting if Nadeshot mentioning on Ghosty and kind of saying how, look, kind of the plan is here to get Ghosty the help that he needs, talking about just generally speaking in the esports landscape, the fact that Thieves are going through this budget cut scenario, the difficulty of trying to get back to the top. But, you know, I think he makes it quite clear that the intention of Thieves is to make roster changes quite frequently if that's what it takes to get the right pieces. If they try a roster, it doesn't work, they'll be happy to trade people out to try and find players that work well together. But apparently Ghosty, at least as far as Nature is concerned, is probably going to be the core of that for quite some time to come. And I think that does make sense based on his potential, his, you know, game knowledge, his just intelligence, generally speaking, and what he did on OpTic last year. Sure, there's questions about him as a teammate and being cheeky, as I think Shotzzy described him as, but I do think that in the long term, Ghosty is going to be a good find for Thieves, and it's just about putting the right pieces around it. Maybe they've got that now, maybe they haven't, but I think that if they don't, then further changes will almost certainly be made.
Dan Ghosty with the tier 1 had some changes to LA Thieves, trying to get this man some help with Afro and all them. You know, I actually with Cammy a whole lot. I with Joe Deceives. I texted him because him and I were actually playing the day that we found out that we were moving on from the roster. I texted him. I'm like, yo, listen, just so you know, bro, I've been on paternity leave. Like, honest to God's truth, been away from the day-to-day of 100 Thieves. I didn't know that they were making this change. I would have been sitting here playing with you like a sociopath if I knew the team was going to be making a change. But I'm hoping that Ghosty and the boys can get a fresh start with Nastie and Kremp. You know, it's tough. Like, when you cut back budgets in esports, in traditional sports that have been around for over 100 years, there's many situations where you're kind of like in a rebuilding phase. You know, budgets are a little lower. You don't think you can actually, with the budgets you have, win. And so you rebuild over time. But it's easier to deal with that in professional sports because you get a first #1 draft pick in the offseason. So rebuilding actually makes a lot more sense. But through the lens of esports, 1 year feels like a decade, especially if you're a fan of a team and you don't think they have a shot at winning. So I know it's tough, but I actually think it's pretty awesome to be the underdog and have these young kids trying to win for us on stage. You know, we got to win a world championship. We proved that we could win. And now we're just trying to take our time and put the right pieces together slowly but surely. And again, I know that's tough to stomach, but I promise you, man, we're working hard to get these guys, helping them find some success.
So let's talk about the Seattle Surge. We saw that Priestahh, of course, retired the other day as well, and Arstees tweets this out, and people, to be honest, saw this and thought, oh my god, like, has Arstees been dropped or something? That does not seem to be the case, especially when we get this from Felony. At Arstees, why is everyone in the lobby but yourself? And we get Gwyn, we get, you know, Arstees actually eventually reply to this, but there's two interesting things about this. Firstly, Arstees and Raven scrimming. That's a big talking point, because just the other day, there were big rumours going around that Arstees had played ranked play with 0, and Arstees was up at like 6 AM his time. So firstly, I was thinking, oh damn, like, did Arstees just, again, was he up super late because he thought that they didn't have scrims because they're blacklisted? So he was sleeping through the scrim or whatever. Maybe that was or was not the case. I don't know. Maybe Arstees took a bit longer to get there than was expected. But also the fact that the blacklist seems to be coming to an end. And it was interesting, right? They broke a load of GAs, the Seattle Surge. But at the end of the day, if you're blacklisted from scrims for like a month, 2 months, the entire season, it's pretty rough for those guys. and especially with a brand new patch update as well, like they already have, I would say, Surge. The fact that they haven't practiced until now and there's a week to go until the start of the season, like, I think that's a mega disadvantage anyway. The other guys, especially teams that have brought up Challengers players, I guess we'll touch on Surge as included here, but those guys have been playing on the new patch update since mid-January when it came out. We've now, you know, Surge have lost 2.5, 3 weeks of practice, really, and I think that's going to be a big deal. So maybe that in and of itself is punishment enough for breaking all the GAs they broke, and maybe the pros felt that at some point we have to lift the blacklist on Surge for breaking all these GAs, because otherwise, if they're like eternally blacklisted, I mean, they're just going to turn up to matches and break GAs. I think that's the thing. Like, if they're blacklisted forever and nobody wants to scrim them forever and ever again, then why would they not just break every GA in the book come, you know, the matches they play in the league? I mean, they probably would, right? So maybe the pros decided, all right, they've had punishment enough, and at least some teams will decide to scrim them. I'm not sure if some of the top teams will even bother, because they might think, well, you know, we didn't scrim Surge. Let's say you're, you know, FaZe or Toronto or something. If you practice against Surge, you're probably just only helping them, really. But Ravens are seemingly willing to do so, right? So the blacklist seems to have been lifted now. And as Nastie says, aBeZy jumped off the top rope and punched someone and said John Cena, not Jeff Hardy. I thought that was pretty funny. But of course, also confirming that Nastie is in the lobby. aBeZy is in the lobby. We are, you know, Hook is not going to be dropped. That wouldn't make any sense at all. So it still does seem to be the case that iLLeY is the one to be making way from the team. And that is controversial. We'll discuss slightly more so in a second. And aBeZy is apparently the man to be coming through. Deal to be announced soon. Here we go, says the rotation. Apparently, done deal. Confirmation coming shortly. So if you guys aren't familiar with aBeZy, really long tenure as a player as well. Came top 4 on Enigma 6 way back in the Black Ops 4 World Championship, if you guys remember that one. But notably, he was on this team last year with the Awobabobs, of course. aBeZy, Linz, aBeZy, and of course, Cobra. So Cobra, the only man of these guys not to be in the league yet. Maybe it's going to be happening at some point in the near future. But yeah, that was the team last year. aBeZy, Linz, of course. I really wish that aBeZy and Linz went together somewhere. I think that Thieves were interested in making that happen. Maybe Rocket could have made that happen as well. Maybe Surge could have made that happen. But neither of them did. Linz has been great. aBeZy has been pretty good as well, given the fact that he is not running his preferred role. And I do feel like this change, possibly for Surge, could be a bit of a stopgap until iLLeY is available again. The assumption I think we're making here is that iLLeY has not been benched for performance reasons. He was the best player on their team. I think that if you want the best version of Surge, you really need iLLeY on the roster. That's not happening. Apparently, he's getting benched for the near term, probably due to out-of-game stuff that we've discussed in some depth. If I was managing Surge, my hope would be, you know, get iLLeY the help he needs, or whatever the case is. Hopefully he's able to return in, you know, a few weeks, if not a month. And when he does return, then I think you have a potential interesting option with Arcetes and iLLeY. Potentially a swap in there is interesting, because I know lots of people are saying, oh, how has Arcetes kept his spot and all this stuff. aBeZy is probably going to be moving now to more of an AR position, because aBeZy has run it all. Like, he's been an AR, he's been an SMG. Last year, I believe, on this roster, he was starting as an AR, and then I think he swapped with Cobra, and he ran the SMG aBeZy alongside Linz, and that worked pretty damn well. So my guess is that aBeZy will probably run the SMG alongside Hook. They'll put aBeZy to hopefully effectively the main AR, where he should have been all along. Arcetes can then kind of like be the second AR flex, maybe slightly faster paced player, which he has done pretty successfully in the past. That's how I would construct the roster, especially given the new meta, right? Because since the patch update with Rio into play, it's no longer 8 MCWs on the map. You might have 6, but, you know, quite often you're going to have 4 rivals, right? Like, there are going to be more SMGs on the map, and I think there will be a trend that continues over the course of the season, and the MCW's been nerfed again. So I don't think you can get away with what Surge were trying to pull off so far this season. So that would be my expectation in terms of what they're going to do. Of course, aBeZy and aBeZy, I wonder exactly how this came to be. Like, did aBeZy say, look, aBeZy's the guy that I want to bring over from that former roster, and he'd be a great addition for multiple different reasons, and maybe it makes sense. Rambo speaks French, get some more French guys in. I like the idea in general. I guess my question is, for a team like the Ravens, how is it possible for these guys to get visas sorted and Ravens just can't, right? It's so bad for Real, and I feel so bad for Real that Nastie is, you know, coming over, got his visa sorted, I'm guessing, with the Thieves guys to join those teams. And we've got aBeZy, who's coming over to Surge to join those teams. And poor Real is stuck on the sidelines over in Europe because Raven's bottled his visa. It really is just tragic stuff. But that's kind of my take on the situation for now. We'll see as and when this is confirmed whether this turns out to be a good move. But I like the idea in theory. I just think that getting rid of Illy, for whatever reason, is not going to be a help to the roster. If Illy can come back at some point, then I think that this could well be a step forward. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.